Hey guys, welcome to the Collider Games podcast. This is episode 4. I've got Dennis and Cobbster here with me. I'm Joey Rasul. Welcome back. We've had a couple things like pop up since we started this. You know, we started this because of E3. This was originally just an E3 wrap up, and you know, we had so much fun sitting talking, and the audience seemed to respond to it. So we continued on with this idea of a Collider Games podcast. So we're here every week for you guys. Thank you, first of all. Thank you for being around.
Guys.
Thank you for sticking around and letting us talk about video games because, you know, we have opinions on them.
Mm-hmm.
Cobbster, what have you been playing recently?
Oh, man. Oh, I've been dueling it up. I've been switching. So I have been replaying Resident Evil. I finished Resident Evil 0. Easy. You know, actually, it's a lot harder than I remember it being. But and then the Halo series was announced for Showtime. I'm like, I kind of want to play Halo.
Right,
so,
go into that story.
Right. So fortunately enough, my younger brother, had the Master Chief Collection and Halo 5. So I was like, are you playing those at all? And he's like, no, you can go ahead and take them. So I took them. I'm going to start playing Halo. But I want to start from the beginning. So I got Halo Reach. It was like $9.
Oh, you're going chronological order.
Chronological. I know I don't have to, but that's just that's how I like to play games. I like just playing from the beginning and soaking everything in. So I'm going back and forth. I'm going to play a Resident Evil game, then I play Halo, and just go back and forth.
But make your way through both franchises?
Yeah, but since I've beaten Reach a couple times, I just put it on easy. I'm just going to fly by it as fast as I can.
Yeah, you want to watch it like a movie, essentially.
Right, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I've been playing those. Those have been a lot of fun. I'm excited to play the Halo 2, the remake version, because I haven't played that one all the way through. The remake version, rather. So no more crappy graphics.
I was looking at some of the cinematic trailers on that, and the way they redid those, that looks just gorgeous.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Dennis, what about you? What have you been playing?
Well, I've been playing Fallout 4 ever since we've been talking about Fallout 76. I mean, that's the problem with doing this channel and this podcast. It makes you want to play games all the time.
Right. All of a sudden, you don't have enough time.
Yeah, I had put that, I hadn't been playing that many games recently, and then we started talking about them, and then you start wanting to play them. UFC 3 had an update that included a bunch of old fighters. They had They added Kimbo Slice. Yep. Mircea Crocop, Cop, Tito Ortiz, and Vanderlei Silva. And that was free too, which was nice. And so I updated that, and as soon as you get new characters, you want to start playing with them. So I've been playing a bunch of UFC 3 as well.
Nice. Very cool. Like you guys, anticipating a new game. I've been anticipating Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Oh yeah, that's
not
right.
because I know anything about the franchise, but because those cinematic trailers hooked me so much. So I went back and I played through Beyond Good and Evil.
Mm-hmm.
And for a game that was 15 years old right now, it feels a lot more cinematic than I would expect from that era. The voice acting is really great. The music is really great. There are some, not necessarily cutscenes, but there are some in-engine stuff that's really cool. There are cutscenes in there too, but it's all. I mean, it's. I understand why it was a cult game. Just playing it, it's got the charm of like a Sam and Max with the gameplay of like a Jak and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank kind of thing. And yeah, it's an older game, and it definitely felt like there was a lot more to this game, like to the story, to the lore, to the backstories and all that, than they were able to fit in that game. So I totally see why everyone was like, we need a second one. We need a second one. Make the second one. And then finally we were getting announcements for Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Wait, no, was that? I was gonna say, is that an exclusive for a console, or is that for everything?
The original or
the original one? Yeah.
The original had an HD re-release, and I think that opened it up to most things. I think the first was Xbox and PS2, and then it got an HD re-release on Xbox 360 and PS3, and with that came a PC release. But I think there was a PC release of the original. Just remembering looking at the credits, I believe I saw like a PC dev team on that. But right now, the HD version is available all over. I was playing it on PlayStation, but yeah, no, it's available on PC as well.
Okay.
And honestly, if you want to just soak up the story real quick, you can always watch a playthrough, or I'm going to do a video of just like, here are the bullet points of the story as we've seen, what's in the trailers. Like, here are the things that relate. Here are the things that might inform what the next game is going to be.
Nice.
That, and I've been after playing Captain Spirit, I've been playing through Life is Strange 1 again in anticipation for Life is Strange 2, which it's like watching a CW show.
Ooh.
As a game.
Okay.
A good CW show or a bad CW show?
Well, okay, I'll say this. I think that you can get away with a little less of a cohesive story in a video game than you can on a TV show. So I would say that a mediocre CW show would make a decent game story.
Okay.
That being said, it's a mediocre CW show. I haven't played through too much of it yet. I played through episode 1 twice because I played through it once on Steam, realized I didn't want to play the game on Steam. I want to play on my PS4. So I re-downloaded it on PS4, played through the story again, like made different decisions just to see what it was like to make the different decisions. And after playing things like Detroit, the variance in decisions in Life is Strange is nowhere near as affecting as I've come to expect. And it's an older game. Well, it's not fantastically older, but it's more about the fact that you're watching a story. It's not so much about making the decisions. The decisions are there to make. And it has a mechanic that kind of allows you to retcon certain decisions as part of the story. So it's an interesting one for sure. It's not. I don't play it for the branching storyline. It's going to be a pretty linear storyline, and I'm expecting the same from Life is Strange 2. And it's just going to be an interesting ride rather than a 80 different options kind of endings are completely different thing like we had with Detroit.
I haven't played the game, so what are the play mechanics compared to, let's say, a Telltale game, or there's that PS4 game a year or two ago that came out, Hidden Agenda. That
I don't remember Hidden Agenda. The PS4 one that I think of is Until Dawn. Okay. Did you ever see anything?
Yeah.
That one's such a fun one.
I need to finish that game.
It's a fun one. It starts off really slow, and then like it's all backloaded. All the fun of the game is backloaded for sure. So with Life is Strange, it plays very much like a Telltale game. It has the same kind of mechanics, and it's just, instead of a story based off of a franchise that it's a story about a girl in a semi-private high school, like art school kind of thing, that she realizes one day that she has the ability to like manipulate time a little bit, which is a really interesting mechanic in a choose your own adventure game, because you can make a choice, see what the ramifications of that choice are, and start to rewind things, and it makes you like, they play with that a little bit in the decisions that initially seem wrong or probably going to end up being the right decisions. So you make that decision, it feels really wrong, you rewind and make the decision that you thought you should have, and that ends up being a worse decision later on. But it's also like, whenever I play those games, I know what I want to do with the story, and then I try and play the character a little bit more. And I'm like, well, this is a high school girl who's gonna like react impulsively and not think through her decisions as much. So yeah, I'm gonna rewind all the time, and I'm gonna like make all the decisions to make everyone like me. And this isn't gonna work out. Oh, okay, that's fine. So yeah, honestly, I don't expect much in the way of a branching storyline from Life is Strange 2, but it's still a fun world to be in. It's it's a pretty cinematic space. It's just kind of got a like a guilty pleasure feel almost.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've run into games plenty of times that I play just because I like them, not because they're good or anything. I still pop in No Man's Sky every now and then.
I'm tempting whether or not if it's because they're releasing it for. I mean, I thought it was originally out, but I guess they're releasing it again, or is it just like for all platforms?
Which one, Life is Strange or No Man's Sky?
Yeah, Sky.
I don't know if they're re-releasing it. They've done updates after updates after updates after updates.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that thing that I'm blanking on the name, and I do so much disservice to Nintendo that people are gonna yell at me. But someone from Nintendo, the head of Nintendo once said that to release a game early and unfinished, people will remember that forever. But to release a finished game late, people will only remember that for a little bit. And so No Man's Sky is definitely a game that was released early and was unfinished. And even though they're getting way closer to finishing it now, this basically feels like it's been in early access this whole time. And it's definitely a better game than when it launched.
Okay.
It's still not a great game.
Yeah.
But if they had launched it as it is now, it wouldn't have lived up to the hype because it got so hyped. But it wouldn't have nosedived into the ground like it did.
Yeah.
But is it a buggy game or is it just unfinished?
It was an empty game at launch. It was a massive procedurally generated world with nothing in it. It was, it had the Spore kind of problems. And, the idea was that you could go and find a planet that had anything on it. And, but once you found it, there was not much to do there except for mine, and you could lose the planet very easily because there wasn't a good way to track which planet you were on or anything. Well, you could track which one you were on, but after you'd made a couple jumps through light speed and things like that, getting back to where you were, next to impossible. Because by the progression of the game was you want to get to the center of the universe, and all you're doing to get to the center of the universe is going past all these random planets, stopping to pick up resources, and then coming back and then jumping to the next solar system. And it just got repetitive and things like that. But they've added, building mechanics, and they've added, home bases and stuff like that. So it's gotten more of a space Minecraft feel. But, it was just kind of too little too late.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like here it is because we want you to have it. But it's not all the way finished. Right. But it's going to get better. Don't worry. No, because by then I'm just going to drop off.
Right.
Like when Pokemon Go had that recent update. Oh, yeah, players can trade Pokemon and trade everything. It was like, well, I've already left it 6 months ago.
You missed your window.
Wasn't that the issue with Destiny when it first came out?
When it first came out, yeah.
That's why I dropped off. That's why I dropped off in Destiny.
The only thing that saved Destiny even a little bit, and I'm not saying that Destiny got saved because there are plenty of people that will disagree with me on that, is the fact that it had a decent multiplayer. And you're like, well, at least I can jump on and play multiplayer, and it's a Bungie multiplayer, so it's going to play really well.
Yeah.
And it did. And when Destiny 2 came out, it kind of it almost went the other way. It did more story. It had, characters and cutscenes and, personality. But then everyone was complaining about the lack of variety in weapons and stuff like that, and all the devs were saying, that's coming. We're gonna bring that in updates and DLC and things like that. And it's like, okay, but you guys made two halves of a good game.
Yeah. See, that's why I always take when they say whether they push a release date or if a release date isn't announced and it's just, it's probably not coming till next year. I usually take that as a good sign. I'd rather them take their time, finish the game. And as opposed to just, like when Resident Evil 6 came out, it was like in 2012, I think that's when it came out. The trailer came out in January, and they're like, oh, it's coming out in November. I'm like, this is the first time I'm hearing or seeing of this, and that's already coming out this soon. And then you see the game, and you're just like, oh, all right.
That got rushed.
But so it's always a tricky. You always want it. You always just want it right then and there. There's so many games I want right now.
And there's some scale on that too, because sometimes once it goes too far, sometimes the first half of the game was developed in a different era of technology, in a different console generation, in a different style of gaming. It was something that happened with Duke Nukem Forever.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that thing. Yeah, forever to come out.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
hey.
did.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like when it came out, it felt like a game that was designed 15 years ago.
Yeah, because they kept scrapping the technology and then doing it over and over again because what's his face wasn't happy with the technology. That's what the problem. They had. I remember I read this article about it. Basically, because he had so much money and he had so much power and control over it.
Yeah.
He just never won. It was like I don't know if you guys remember when Guns N' Roses was doing that their album Chinese Democracy.
Yeah,
Sure.
Uh-huh.
And Axl Rose just took forever to do it because he kept changing and he wanted. That's what happened with Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a diminishing return on that. Duke Nukem Forever, also one of my guilty pleasure games. I mean, I played it in a bit of a vacuum. I hadn't followed Duke Nukem. I really liked Gearbox at the time because they really liked me, and I was like, if you guys like me, then of course I'll play this game. That sounds fun. And so I played it without any idea of the history to it, to Duke Nukem in general, let alone this particular game. And I was like, I don't know, it's kind of fun. It was a little goofy, a little cheesy. It feels like, like Ren and Stimpy kind of and stuff like that. But and then, when I came out of my my room and everyone was like, this is a disgrace of a game. I'm like, oh, yeah, such a bad game.
Yeah.
I mean, people have their complaints, but a lot of the complaints that I've heard are complaints like with the Duke Nukem franchise, and it's like, what did you think you were getting?
As long as it plays well. If it plays well and you're having fun doing it, because it's very easy. If there's a game that doesn't sell you on a trailer or what gameplay looks like, especially now, because I'm sure when did Duke Nukem, when did Forever come out? Like
Forever was
mid-2000s?
2000,
late 2000s, late 2010s,
2009,
2011.
2000.
Oh.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, we still got trailers and stuff for that as well.
Yeah.
But like, you could still decide whether or not you want to play it. That's the good thing. And if you play it and you're not into it, then just drop it.
But it was a character that was designed, in the 90s, in the early 90s
Yeah,
for
1996 was
for
Duke
a-
Nukem 3D.
for a very specific type of gamer. And then, when a new one comes out, it's like, how do you not expect it to be the same character? The gameplay is okay, it's a shooter. And then, like, one of the things that I appreciate, I'm defending this game way too hard. One of the things that I appreciated about it is it was a game made for gamers. There's little inside jokes and things like that throughout the game. Like there's one where you're trying to get through this part of a map, and there's all these steam vents and things like that, and you have to close the steam vents to get through, and it's a puzzle as you're going through, adjusting all these valves. And at some point he goes, I hate valve puzzles.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
all right.
Get it.
Is that the same one? Was there a Halo jab in one of those too?
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't he find like Master Chief's
helmet
or something?
and stuff like that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember that.
There's all kinds of little things like that. So if you're a gamer, you appreciate those moments. But I mean, a lot of games have those kind of nods to each other and stuff like that. And this was a little more on the nose with them.
15 years in development.
15 years.
15 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and so imagine what console it was being developed for.
Yes.
Or what era of PC it was being developed for versus what it actually came out on. Yeah, there's going to be a huge gap, that big discrepancy. So I get what you're saying, that like if they're delaying, that's usually a good sign. But there's a diminishing return.
Well, it depends on how long the delay is.
Yeah.
Like a 15-year. Like that's why Half-Life 3 is never going to happen, right?
No.
I've never played the games, but I just know the stories of how everyone wants that. One, it's going to be disappointing. Two, since we bring up this, what are they making it for?
Yeah.
If they're really serious and they need to get going. I mean, imagine they announced at E3 this year that, Half-Life 3, we got it. But the following year, aren't they planned to announce a new console? Or that's at least the rumor that they're doing new consoles next year. Or hopefully,
I mean,
maybe?
that one's been floating around back and forth.
Let's say for the sake of the argument, that they were going, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, it's not even going to be for the next new console, so it's a toss up.
It honestly, I think there's a difference between a game that's been in development for 15 years versus a game that took 15 years to get a sequel to, because
yeah.
you know,
Well, this was straight up a development thing.
yeah,
from
they
96.
started developing
Yes.
almost right after the end of Duke Nukem 3D.
Yes.
And I wonder, I want to do more research on it, but I wonder what the story is with Kingdom Hearts 3, because they've been talking about the development for a long time, and I wonder if it's the same situation, because from playing a little bit of it at E3. The things that I forgave Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and I've said this before, but the things that I forgave Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 for being older games, and I was like, oh, okay, it's a little slow, the pace, just even in like dialogue scenes, like back and forths and stuff like that, there's like a big long pause, and then someone goes, what? Like that kind of stuff. I'm like, that's because it's the PS2. That's fine.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to like completely re-engineer that for an HD re-release or anything like that. That's fine. I get that. But then to see that kind of stuff in Kingdom Hearts 3, I'm like, oh no, hold on, stop that. I feel like that kind of stuff should be tighter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's visually the game looks amazing, especially with all the CGI animated worlds, like the Pixar worlds and Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph, Toy Story, stuff like that. Like that looks great because it blends so nicely.
Yeah.
But
are they trying to integrate any of the superhero stuff in Kingdom Hearts?
Incredibles.
Okay, but
but
no,
but
like
I don't think Marvel.
Okay, because I was thinking like maybe they were planning something and then. Maybe like Iron Man came out, they're like, "Oh, let's see where this goes." And then, but if there's no sign of that,
that's the other issue with that development process is they've got to be so up to date when it does come out.
Yeah, they've got
so
Frozen
every time they were talking about the game, but I mean the worlds aren't so story dependent. It's a matter of going like, okay, we have 12 worlds. We don't exactly know what they are yet, but they're going to go in this order. In this one, Riku needs to show up again. In this one, you're going to see Mickey again for the first time. In between these two, we're going to get the cutscene of the new Organization 13 or whatever it is. So I don't think the actual worlds play that much of a role, especially because ultimately Disney's message is relatively similar across all their franchises, and so you can manipulate that to fit into Kingdom Hearts pretty easily.
Yeah,
of just like, I mean, the first two had that of like, I'm looking for something related to heart, or I'm looking for something related to memory, or something like that. And you could pull any Disney character and have that be part of their story pretty easily.
It could always be reasoning. When the last Kingdom Hearts came out, that came out almost 15 years ago, or how long ago was that?
The last one was 2004.
Okay, so almost 15 years, and that's It could also just come down to it wasn't the right time.
Maybe
it wasn't the right time to make it. You're like maybe all the pieces were in the right place. Maybe they didn't have the right team coming together. I mean, we don't know all the behind the scenes, and then maybe just finally they're like, hey, people have been wanting it. Let's do it.
I should go back and figure out exactly when we saw the first version of the logo, like announced at E3 or anything like that, but also the first gameplay, because we've been seeing gameplay for a little while too, and it's like I have a feeling that gameplay wasn't the issue because the gameplay doesn't look that different.
Right.
It was a matter of nailing down the story. So that's going to be an interesting one, especially because Kingdom Hearts is such a convoluted story anyway. That if the story's a little lackluster, I don't know if I'll mind that much, because if there are plot holes and things like that, I have no idea when it comes to the Kingdom Hearts storyline. It's so convoluted already that it's going to be hard to imagine a world where it's not a mess unless they went and overly simplified it and just said, hey, this is just a third one. It's just another adventure.
They could. I mean, maybe they're they're going to go more towards, because obviously now that it's a third in a series, you're catering to not only just kids, but you're also catering to people that played those games when they were younger at that time. So is it going to be like a Pokemon situation where I might be a little angry grump at using the Pokemon Go tactic, but I'm like, okay, at the end of the day, this is for kids. But since I grew up with it, it's like, no, I want it how it was when I was a kid. Is that going to be the same thing for Kingdom Hearts?
Well, see, I wonder with Kingdom Hearts, because it's more of a nostalgia play adventure game. You know, it's the people that make Final Fantasy. So, and you just happen to be in a world that is Disney.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't know who, if they were talking about their target audience for this one, whether they're trying to re-grab younger players or they're trying to, you know, live in the world of the nostalgia of Disney.
I would imagine it's going to be a nice blend for both, because like, what else? Why would in a third where they just try to just reach out to a brand new audience and get that audience and only that audience?
Yeah,
you know, I think there could be easily for both.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, like Kingdom Hearts and Beyond Good and Evil, some of the cool things that I really liked out of E3, but there were plenty of things that, you know, on the lead up to E3 we were talking about that we didn't end up seeing.
Yeah.
You know, I know, Dennis, you were very interested in a new Fallout, and Fallout 76 was announced even before E3. But was there anything that you were anticipating that didn't get announced? Or
not announced. I was missing Rockstar being there with Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, the game's coming out later this year. It's not like next year, so they need to like skip an E3. I thought they would have
some kind of presence,
even if it wasn't a demo. You know, just some sort of presence there, because they didn't even have the trailer play during the Sony or the Microsoft press conference.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, especially because people can get things so easily digitally now that presence at E3, I think the impact of it is waning a lot, which is why we were getting trailers dropping earlier, and we were getting things like, you know, Nintendo does their Treehouse, and Sony does events now outside of E3, and Microsoft does it as well. E3 is just a kind of opportunity to do that, and now it's not the end all be all that it once used to be.
It's like Comic-Con now. Everyone's got their own thing.
Yeah. And especially with all the studios now having multiple branches, where you have Sony having their movie studio and their gaming and things like that. Like, they could theoretically have an event where they talk about their entire slate, whether you're, in movies, TV, video games, or anything. And, you know, Disney already does that at D23.
Yeah.
So they talk a little bit about video games there. They talk, everything from Star Wars to Marvel to what is going on with their parks.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the direction that we're going.
I hope not, though. I mean, you're right, though. The video games, they have like BlizzCon, right? All Blizzard stuff there. I just hope it doesn't become a thing where every single studio, then Rockstar has their own con, or Bethesda has their own con. I mean, just speaking personally, I don't want to go to like 50 different ones.
But I mean, to be fair, Bethesda kind of does have their own in QuakeCon.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's more but it's still under Bethesda.
Yeah, but I just don't want all these separate things just for, just like Comic-Con. I don't want to go to like one just for Disney stuff, one just for Fox stuff. Well, even though there might be together soon. But I just don't want to have to go to so many different ones, because I like a lot of different things. So say with video games, I don't want to go to just one that covers, even as much as I love Fallout, like I don't want to go to one that is just like Bethesda or whatever. I just want them all together at one place.
Well, when I was going to conventions more as a fan, it was, I always liked to go to Comic-Con just because it was close by, and then we had a couple pop up in LA. Wizard World, eventually WonderCon was there for a little bit, Kamikaze, and then people would be talking about cons around the world or around the country. I mean, around the world a little bit, but everyone's like, oh, you got to go to Dragon Con in Atlanta. Oh, you got to go to PAX.
Who's got the money to do and the time to do all this stuff?
I mean, there are people that can do it, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I've got to really you got to have a lot there for me to make the journey, because that's the other thing is if they do all these conventions, they're not all going to be local to everyone, let alone just local to us. That's the selfish view of it. If they're all in the LA Convention Center, that's awesome. But you know, you guys just got back from a con in Vegas. What if Bethesda did a Fallout con in Vegas? That would be awesome. But is Fallout alone enough for you to go do like a business trip versus having E3 where it's going to be everything?
Yeah, and also with E3, like, you're marketing not just to your fans, but to people maybe who either don't know your property or haven't played your particular franchise, right?
Yeah.
If you have a Fallout, let's say a Fallout con, right?
Yep.
Definitely. I'd go there and I'd have a lot of great time, but I'm already buying the game. And so is everyone else who's going to that con, right? So you're not really marketing to anyone outside of your existing fan base.
No, that's a good point. I mean, that would be more of a fan thing rather than a press thing. And that, you know, E3 is going to have its place because even though it is letting in fans now, it is a press event. It's designed to disseminate that information and get the press and critics a chance to have some firsthand experience with the game. And admittedly, there's a bit of every developer and publisher there, like really wanting to glad hand the press so that the press speaks nicely of their games. And you know, this is a big part of how the industry works. So if everything becomes digital or becomes their own events, it's going to be a lot harder to be impartial in that way, and it's going to be a lot harder to be you know, to be truthful, because if Bethesda did have a press event, they would likely invite all the press outlets that have been very nice about their games, and those are the ones that would talk. And anyone who had, you know, said, you know, Fallout 4 is a piece of trash and it shouldn't have ever been released, and I don't think that they should. I think they should close up their doors and give everyone their money back. That person's probably not going to be invited to a Bethesda event.
Well, this happens, you know, for all the industries, movies, television, technology. Apple is notorious for if you criticize Apple and their products, they're not inviting you to their product launch events, so you don't get to go there and see and get hands-on, you know, with their new iPhone or new iPad or et cetera. So this you know, this standard practice with, I guess, all industries. and it's so I guess it's one of the things that we've been running into at Collider for a long time. You know, it's that balance of keeping those relationships and making sure that we can go, you know, and get information on the newest thing, but at the same time always being truthful and honest about our opinions.
And I think that's the benefit of having so many people that are, you know, informed on these things, because you know with we're able to have differing opinions on things, and you know, someone can say they like it, someone can say they don't like it. Ultimately, it all balances out, and you know, if you like this kind of thing, then maybe you won't like this product. You know, and being able to talk in that way and you know, try and give out the information in that sense. I really love talking about that. It's a little off topic, and I'm happy that we got to say some stuff about it. But one of the things that I wanted to get back to is the idea of things that we didn't see at E3, and this is, you know, again, I'll say it again that I'm a big fan of Gearbox. When Gearbox starts putting out more of their like tentpole franchises and 2K as well, I am going to be excited for them, and I want to be able to talk about them. But neither of them had a presence at Comic-Con. They
E3, you mean?
Or sorry, at E3.
The video game of Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So you know,
they weren't able to talk about a rumored new BioShock installment.
Yeah.
2K might potentially be developing that. Irrational is no longer a thing, so Irrational can't be developing it, but 2K still has the rights. So we'll see what happens. The last time that Irrational didn't make a BioShock game, it was BioShock 2, which is arguably the worst in the franchise.
Yeah.
But also had some of the best design. It had some of the best art. It had some of the best...
multiplayer was actually pretty fun,
Yeah,
too.
the multiplayer was great. Gameplay mechanics were great. The DLC, Minerva's Den, was great. It just didn't have that Ken Levine story.
Yeah, that was the most disappointing thing because I loved the first BioShock's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
One of my favorites of all time. And leading up to that, I was super excited. I didn't know much about the story. I didn't know much of anything. And then when you learn that you're going to play a Big Daddy, and those ideas are great. I wanted either some kind of continuation or something that related to that. And then BioShock Infinite came out, and they're like, okay, I think I see what's going on here. They're telling different stories with the same sort of style. And I think it'd be hard to do a follow up to the original BioShock, especially the way that ends. So it makes sense, but it was still kind of like okay, that was fun. It was a fun game, but still, like, overall.
Yeah, and the other thing that we didn't see any announcement for was new Dragon Age. So there's been talk that Dragon Age 4 is being worked on. Half the writers are no longer involved in the project. So that's got some fans upset. And this is a common theme with these kind of games. BioShock and the franchise has a heavy fan base, but the creators aren't involved. So that's kind of a strange one. Dragon Age has lost half of its writing staff to other projects. Borderlands lost their main writer for Borderlands 2 is not coming back, Anthony Birch. At least there might be something secretive there, but Borderlands 3 is not going to have Anthony Birch's writing that we know of.
That was one of the ones that was like the leaked Walmart stuff, right? Didn't it say Borderlands 3?
Borderlands 3, Splinter Cell, BioShock.
Yeah, BioShock was on there too.
BioShock was on there. And honestly, a lot of those could have been Walmart guesses and stuff, but a lot of them were right. At the Bethesda press conference, so they
mentioned it.
They mentioned it with Wolfenstein, right? No, what was the first thing at the press conference? Rage 2.
Rage 2, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like those things were on the list. So I guess that's why I assumed they would be at E3.
Yeah.
And that could have been just wishful thinking on Walmart's part, or maybe it could be that they are confirmed and they are being worked on, and there's way down the line, and people doubled down and pulled whatever little stuff they had for E3.
Yeah.
Based on that.
Sense. Yeah, I think they, especially if they have enough to announce.
Yeah.
They're like, let's not give them everything.
Yeah, I mean, because if they were planning on just being in one of the press conferences and not having a presence on the floor, or something like that, if the leak happens and your lead developer or game publisher goes, no, that's just a rumor, that's not true.
Yeah,
I mean, you could double down on it and pull what you have for E3.
Yeah,
and kind of. Honestly, it's probably a leak like that's probably not going to affect a publisher or developer that much that they really need to like re-strategize.
Right.
But maybe they were not planning on doing anything for E3 anyway.
Or there's just like maybe the idea floated about and they just weren't ready. Maybe because I don't think we're not ever going to get another BioShock or maybe another Borderlands or another Splinter Cell. I would imagine that we'll get something in the near future of those games, but maybe like they're working on a title, they're working on some stuff, they're testing things out, and they're just like, well,
we don't want to announce anything. You know what? Honestly, it was probably even if they'd heard no rumors, maybe it was just safe bets on Walmart's part.
It's very true.
Because honestly, if you had said in like February, like there's gonna be a Halo 6, there's gonna be a Halo 6.
Well, it's like no doubt.
Okay, yeah, of course there is. Eventually, one day there will be a Halo 6.
Yes, yeah. Now, see, if I saw an Alan Wake 2, I would have been like, okay, all right, yes, because I've been waiting for it.
I've been waiting for that game too.
Oh, I've been waiting for that one for a long time. That's when I was like, you never know. Like I think it's like every year I'm always waiting for the next game. Like, are they going to announce an Alan Wake 2?
Did you play Nightmares?
I didn't. No, I think I started it and I'm like, oh, this isn't really the same.
The storyline is definitely not. It's like a side storyline, right?
Yeah.
I mean, same character, but like you're really not. The mood is a lot different.
Okay, is it more action? I mean, no,
it's more action. Yeah. It's still fun to play. It's still worth playing, but you're not going to get that lore and the storyline of Alan Wake.
I love that first one. I read the book. For Alan Wake 2? Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I love everything
I went to
about
E3 before it came out, and I had a private demo of it, and they gave me, at that time it was Xbox 360, so they gave me an Alan Wake like Xbox 360 cover.
Oh, nice.
The front cover.
Yeah,
I still have that. It's one of those games that I love that, unfortunately didn't do that well.
No,
And so,
even like the story, it's like, what? Huh? But like if you play it and you're like, that's kind of the charm of the game.
Yes, the story's like weird. It's convoluted, but at the same time, it has great atmosphere. And then the music that they integrate is great.
Music's great. Yeah.
And they actually did like a television. I don't know if you ever played it, but it's in episodes.
The Twilight Zone knockoff show.
Yeah.
Something Falls or
what
was it? I forget what it was. I need to replay that game too.
but every chapter of the game was like an episode of television. It was like you're playing, I think, 6 episodes of Alan Wake.
I was gonna say you're on a big horror game kick. Replaying through Resident Evil and
that's kind of usually when I want to replay stuff. There's some horror. There could be some horror elements in Halo. There could be.
Honestly, that first encounter with the Flood is terrifying.
Oh, brutes are horrifying.
Brutes are pretty.
Elites can be pretty creepy too when they're just not talking.
Brutes are pretty gnarly. Did you ever play Evil Within?
Yes. Yeah, same creator as Resident Evil. I was a big fan. I never finished it. I played like a good halfway through, and it's weird. It's like bonkers. But it's like, this is exactly like what I would want from it was almost like I wish Resident Evil was like this. And I never finished all the way through. That's one I need to go back and finish. And I know they made a sequel, but the RE creator, I don't think he's part of that one. I think he left and somebody else took over for it. But I liked it. It was interesting. This
is one of the the interesting trivia things that I love about games and games like that is the voice actor for that is the same voice actor that is now playing Spider-Man in the new Spider-Man game.
Oh, okay.
And then you get such crazy crossovers because there are some really talented voice actors out there, and of course everyone knows the Nolan North and Troy Baker and stuff like that, but they're really good at doing the same voice, and they have a very, very good strong male lead voice.
Yeah.
But then there are other people that the voice in Uncharted 4 for the main female villain, black South African girl, is also the same voice as young Trunks in all the Dragon Ball Z games.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it's just how is that
range?
You have an amazing range as a person. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I kind of love the little crossovers like that in the video game industry.
That's pretty cool. It was the same thing with bringing back up Alan Wake. The guy who voiced I think the guy who voiced Max Payne did one of the characters in that TV show, the fictional TV show in that. I think sounded just like him. I'm pretty sure it was. I don't remember the guy who voiced Max Payne, but that voice sounded very familiar.
Interesting.
Yeah, but if we're talking about we brought up BioShock and Splinter Cell. we got Last of Us 2. We got a gameplay. We got a trailer and some gameplay, and it looks phenomenal. No release date. Still no release date for that game.
No, it's true.
I think they had said it a while back when they announced it. They said 2018, but I don't believe it. I don't buy that for a second. Yeah.
I mean, that game looked really, really polished.
It looks pretty good. Looks pretty finished.
Yeah, no, honestly, all the release dates are blending together in my brain. I have not been able to like lock down a single one. I have a list on my computer that I just kind of refer back to whenever I actually need one.
Right.
But the second I'm not looking at that list, I'm like, I don't know, probably somewhere between September and February, and if not, then it's not announced.
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
And just for every game, it's been like that. One of the games that did show up on the stage, and it's kind of already out, but Beat Saber showed up for
it did.
For PSVR. But, you know, Beat Saber has been out in Steam Early Access for a long time, and we got to play a whole bunch of that this week. Dorian doing his awesome Gangnam Style.
How do you memorize a song like that? How do you just?
I mean,
he disappoints me sometimes.
It's goddamn impressive.
Oh, Dorian, what are you doing?
No, apparently he said he had to learn it for some
class
senior event in high school,
which was like last week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And you know, like he and his buddies had to learn it and perform it. So he just knows.
What school did he go to?
He just knows that he went to school in Texas. I don't know.
Did he really? Oh,
yeah. He's a Texas guy. But so he just knew the song, and you know, if you put a VR headset and headphones, it's amazing what people will just randomly start singing. But yeah, so we got to play a bit of Beat Saber. We got a bunch of people from the office to pop the headphones on, and I know you guys are big gamers, but we wanted to try and get some average Joes in there as well. So we've got like Wendy playing and Perry playing, and Roka jumped in for a little bit.
That game it is for casual gamers. That's, you know, like a Rock Band or Guitar Hero. Those are people, or like Wii Sports. Those are people who don't normally play hardcore games.
Wii Bowling though.
Yeah. It's a weird balance though, because VR is so cost prohibitive that like to have a casual game on what we had to run, that's like it's like a $2,000 system.
Jeez.
With the laptop, the HTC Vive, the extras that we have purchased and things like that. So I'm happy to see that it's coming to PSVR, because that's at least a more attainable system, especially if you already have a PS4 Pro. Can it run on the regular PS4?
I don't know.
I think it can only run on the Pro.
VR is not my thing.
But then, the headset's only going to be like $300, something like that, compared to it's a lot.
And are you buying games on top of that too?
Yeah, Beat Saber was like $20.
Oh my, that's $20. Dang.
Yeah.
You really got to be into VR. Maybe I'm just not a huge VR fan. I get it.
Yeah.
But like something like that, where it's like a group of people can come and all play like tournament style, like that's what I feel like that's made for. I don't think I will ever play a game full on in VR. Like a full 9-10 hour game. I don't know if I could do that.
I didn't think I would either until I started playing Fallout 4 in VR.
Oh man, oh god.
I mean, that's an already immersive game.
Right.
VR would just suck you right in.
The thing that hooked me was being able to look around a corner, see things, and then like lean back and just stick my hand out and turn the gun to the side and be able to fire blindly around a corner like that. I'm like, I could only ever do that in VR. And also the fact that it's no secret that Bethesda games are usually kind of broken. And, because the worlds are so massive and things like that, obviously things go wrong. They're even more broken in VR, and it's hilarious. And, the loading screen, that very first screen where you're supposed to be making your character in VR, like you're looking in the mirror. But in VR, the camera's still where it was in the original game. Like the mirror effect doesn't work. So if you look down, you don't see your feet; you see the sink. And I was messing around in the menus or something like that, and I stepped around and came back into the game, and all of a sudden I just saw blackness, and I was like, wait, okay, something's wrong with the headset. And I looked around, and I was outside the building in like pre-war era. Like I had just clipped through the wall because I'd taken a step back from the mirror, and all of a sudden I was in this area that I didn't have access to. And it's just little things like that, like the cryolator in the very beginning of that first vault. Yeah, in VR, you can just reach your hand through the glass and grab it. It was, there's broken stuff like that. But honestly, I don't know if I could play the full game that way. Like the best experiences I've had in VR are the little short experiences, like 10-minute stories or something like that. The longest one we did was Josh and Christian playing Don't Knock Twice, which was 6 hours. Jeez. But that 6 hours at a Makuga pace. So it's probably a 3-hour game.
Okay. All right.
Which again, a fun horror game, and if you're on a horror kick, maybe we'll load up some VR horror for you.
Yeah, like that stuff I don't mind. It's like if I'm playing like Uncharted, I don't know if Uncharted would ever be, but you know what I mean, like a full-on like 15-hour game. I don't know if I could sit through that or stand through that.
I think it's got to be designed for VR.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing. Like ports are tough.
Yeah.
But then again, I was just talking about Fallout 4, and that was one of my favorite things of like the things that are designed for VR don't feel like AAA games.
Okay.
And the AAA games that are ported over don't feel like they were designed for VR. And that's basically where we're at. So one day when VR has like permeated the ecosystem, we will get a AAA VR game. We just haven't yet. That's the main thing. Hopefully it's something that picks up because I really like it. Granted, my experience has been mainly on an HTC Vive, and by the way, guys, we have a good VR setup here because Mark is a big fan of VR. He loves it, and he's like, no, we're gonna make sure that you guys are getting the best VR experience. Wendy, put this on here. It's not exactly the same experience that I think I would have if I bought a PSVR or something like that, or even if I bought an HTC Vive and tried to, you were talking about building a gaming PC a while back.
For editing, but not for gaming. But yeah.
Just a editing PC.
Yeah.
Spec a little differently. Than,
I'm sorry. I know.
But point being that it's very, very, very cost prohibitive to get to the level of VR that everyone in this office has been introduced to. So when that kind of technology becomes something that, you can have in your living room. Because the other thing is, I would love to go play Beat Saber just on my lunch break or something like that. But if the computer's not set up, and, like if we took it down to like put up another set, then all of a sudden you got to adjust, the light towers, and you got to calibrate everything and all that. It's not just a turn it on and play. Like
it's a whole setup.
Yeah, right. like the Wii or like Rock Band were, you could pick up and go a lot easier.
I miss Rock Band.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, it's going to be a $300 headset to play Beat Saber, but you spent $150-$200 on a Rock Band setup.
It's true.
So
that's very true.
We're getting to that realm, and you couldn't use that setup for anything else other than more Rock Band games.
But now that fad has kind of gone away.
But with a PSVR headset, even if you were buying it for one game, at least it would work for other games. Do you remember there was a time where people were trying to figure out other uses for those controllers because everyone had the Guitar Hero and Rock Band controllers sitting around, and it was around about the same time as Brutal Legend came out.
Is that the
Jack Black's game, which I don't think actually used the controllers, but there were other rhythm games that were coming out that were like, you're going to be fighting zombies and stuff, but you're using the guitar controller, and that was one of the interesting things that I saw at E3 that year. It had to have been like 2012 or something like that. But those are the kind of little things that we see at a show like that we wouldn't see if they all did their own individual
Yes,
shows,
yeah.
or they
Because it showcases technology and where the industry is heading, or might not head, just to test things out and see.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised there wasn't more VR stuff at E3 this year.
Yeah, no, that was honestly pretty amazing. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe it goes the same way that 3D movies did, and maybe just people are not interested in it. You can argue that 3D movies are a better experience, but the difference in acquisition, the difference in production, we got a quote unquote AAA movie that was designed for 3D in Avatar. The gaming industry has not gotten that yet, and that doesn't necessarily mean it would save the process, because Avatar did not save 3D.
No. But I think VR technology-wise has much more potential than 3D does, and it's still early. I mean, the VR we're looking at, even though it looks pretty good right now, is probably going to look like, Atari 2600 in, about 5 to 10 years. We're going to be like...
Yeah. I mean, it's not a matter of whether it's there yet. It's a matter of, do you want to jump on it now? Because it's going to get there eventually.
Yeah.
And yeah, like either you invest in it early, and is it cool to have your old Atari 2600 kicking around, or were there people saying, oh yeah, I like this video game thing, but it's not quite there yet. I'm gonna wait a little while. I'm gonna wait until it's on disc and the PlayStation 1 comes out. I'm like, now I think video games are there.
Yeah.
Like, or just play
Hey,
what's out there and just have fun.
We all know, remember, film versus digital. Everyone used to say digital was not going to make it because it looked so crappy.
Right.
Which
and
it did
just,
back in the day. But now, guess what?
It's the
90, how many 99% of productions are shot digitally.
And it just gets more and more expensive to shoot film.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, do you think we'll get the equivalent of it'll get harder and harder to develop a non-VR game once the industry starts shifting
I don't
that way?
think so, but I think technology, if it gets better and people get used to it, maybe VR, and then you don't have the whole big cumbersome headset, and if you could do that in a smaller condensed version that was maybe battery operated, that didn't have to be tethered to, you know what I mean, like those kind of advances that make it easier for the regular person to use.
I have a prediction here. The reaction that older generations had when we said we're not going to have cable in the house. It's like, okay, well, what is your TV for then?
You have two TVs? You must be rich.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But it's like we're not gonna pay for cable. We're not gonna have that in the house. It's not a thing that most people have
Cable cutter.
anymore. Especially if you're younger than 40, you probably don't have cable in the house.
I ain't got cable.
Like that's
Netflix,
that's
Amazon,
the thing.
HBO.
I think that eventually there is going to be an era where all of us look at young kids and go, wait, you don't have a TV in your house?
Yeah.
Why don't you have a TV? Like,
you have one of those
what do you watch?
Mind TV? You just watch in you close
What do
your
you watch
eyes?
two-dimensional things on?
Yeah.
Well, we just don't watch two-dimensional things. We only watch 3D, we only watch stuff on the headset.
I thought I read somewhere that they were trying for 3D movies without the glasses. Something like it's just the screen, right?
See, that would succeed.
I think that would succeed, especially because people get tired of having those glasses on the whole time.
And we've seen that technology. I mean, the 3DS has that technology.
Yes. Yeah, you switch it up.
It's just a matter of, that works because it's a 4-inch screen.
And also, is it going to be like a 48 frames per second kind of thing? Is it going to look weird to the eyes that it's just on the screen like that,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, where technology is going to go, like we can only try and predict.
I'm scared of the high frame rates, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine for video games and sports and everything. Great.
It's perfect.
But movies and television, I do not want to see anything higher than 24.
I did not like that, Peter Jackson. Do not do that.
Yeah, I saw that Hobbit in whatever.
It's even scarier too, because we pick out things like that. Yeah. But I go to my parents' house over the weekend, and their TV's playing at 60 frames per second. They're like, "This looks good." I'm like, "No, this does not look good."
Looks
Why?
looks like a behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's what they
Shoot.
think. That's what they think is like HD. It's just like
Oh
high
yeah,
frame
no.
rate.
There were people like before HDMI cables. There were people I knew that had high end TVs with not the composite cables, the component cables, the RGB.
Yeah.
And like I'd walk in and be like, "Your color's all kinds of weird. What's going on?" Look at the back of the TV. They'd switch the red and the green just because they're like, "I don't know. I thought that's how it was supposed to look. Like that looked fine to me." It's like how is that possible? So we here in the technology in a technology-based industry and our fans who are consumers of technology notice that kind of stuff, but there are people that don't.
Nope.
There are people in the world that don't, and it's a matter of getting those people invested in the new technology to get that level of market saturation to really make something.
Yeah, I mean,
take off.
even like when the jump from VHS to DVD happened, everyone, even the casual consumer, could see the difference, and they're like, "Oh my god, DVD." Even though I'm sure all three of us here can tell the difference between Blu-ray and DVD.
Oh yeah,
there are some people who can't, right? They don't see the difference.
I have been because when my girlfriend moved in, and because she was always used to watching DVDs and just regular TV, and I have like a nice 60-inch 4K TV, and everything we watch, it's got to be. I'm very picky about it. It's got to be Blu-ray. She's like, we'll watch it on DVD. I'm like, no, it's Blu-ray, and she's like, I don't tell the difference. And then when she'd go visit her dad, and she sees that we're watching on standard def, and then she comes back, she's like, I can't go back over there and watch Game of Thrones anymore.
Right.
She's like, because it's like, you see, there's a difference.
Yeah.
There is a difference.
I mean, there's even a difference between Blu-ray and HD, either streaming or cable, right?
Yeah.
Like if you watch Game of Thrones on HBO, even on your cable, and you buy the Blu-rays look so much crisper and cleaner, but honestly, most people can't tell.
Well, this is one of the things that is interesting. When you loop this back to video games, is we're getting to a place where hopefully the longevity of a game, like you can play older games. Like there were plenty of older games that I did not play when I was a kid because they didn't have voice acting and I had to read. And I'm like, I don't want to have to read. I just want to listen to people tell me the story. And the technology was changing so quickly that you needed that. You needed a certain standard to be able to engage an audience. But nowadays, the graphics are so good, the stories are so well put together that you can play a 10-year-old game and not feel like you're missing out on too much. Like, yeah, it's a little lower quality, but it's a 10-year-old game. That's you can let that slide. So things like BioShock Infinite or things like other games that really had good story, people can still go back and play those, when they missed out. Like I am never good about playing games right when they come out, or I am now. I never used to be. It's my job now, so I'm good at it now. But I'm playing Witcher 3, and playing through that, and that's already starting to get a little like 10 years ago. A game that old, like I was like, oh, you're playing something 2-3 years old, like that would start to get long in the tooth, and you'd see the difference in the fidelity and things like that. But now it's like it's still a beautiful game.
Oh, I mean, look at you're talking about PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X that have 4K.
Yeah,
the 4K does look better than what we have now with HD, but how many people are out there going, oh my god, this looks amazingly better that I have to buy this?
Yeah, I still haven't jumped on that yet. I know it'll look better, but also it's like what I'm seeing now, it's like I'm fine with it. But I do know people, a lot of friends that once they've gone 60 frames playing video games, they can't go back. Like it's like the same thing with
I believe
Blu-ray
that.
or 4K. Yeah. They can't go back unless they really want to go retro or nostalgia. Yeah.
I mean, I'm at the point where I have a PS4 Pro and a 4K TV, and then I have the old setup I just didn't get rid of. So I have a regular PS4 and an HD TV in my office, and I play most of my games there because it's not because I can't tell the difference, but because the difference is not
significant.
It's
enough
not important to the game to me.
Right.
Whereas, with older games, when I was a kid, it was like, but the pacing is different. This feels sluggish. This feels slow. And nowadays, like, you can go back to a 10-year-old game and the pacing's not as much of an issue. It's just going to be a little lower res. Yeah. Like a little blocky, a little pixely.
There's something about that though that I love. Like the blocky pixel. It's just something about that I do, cuz like when I'm playing Resident Evil, I'm playing 0 and 1, which are nice HD releases, but then I'm going to have to go back to my GameCube, or rather my Wii, to play the GameCube versions of Resident Evil 2 and 3, which have those blocky, sort of clunky looking. But it's just that's what it is, and I love it. It's nice.
But I mean, like, there is that there's that transition period of when people started to take the stories in video games a little more seriously. People started to, and it happened with TV as well. It happened with cartoons and things like that. Like,
it happened with comic book movies.
It happened with comic book movies, that once you get to this point where people are taking the art form seriously, and not just the guy who's creating it, but everyone throughout the creation process.
People gotta pay for it,
Yeah. Then all of a sudden, once you're in that era, you can go back to anything in there. Like, I feel like there's some, cheesy voice acting and stuff in the first, years of when games had voice acting, because they were just, they didn't exactly know what it was. They didn't know what the technology could do. They didn't know how serious to take video games. But now we get, Emmy-worthy performances from video games, or BAFTA-worthy performances, because there are plenty of games that have won BAFTAs.
Yeah. Voice acting has become a lot more serious. I know, like, voice actors don't even like to be referred to just as voice actors. They're actors.
No, they're actors.
They are actors, and that is 100% true. They are putting on a performance, and almost more so, especially now with a lot more mocap happening. It's a performance. It's not just them sitting in a booth and recording lines. It's more than that.
Yeah, and it's not the classic, like, hero stuff of, like, I need to go and save, like, you're putting emotion into it, and that kind of stuff has been happening for a while. So any game with that within that era, I feel like you can go back to and play, especially if something has a good story.
Yeah,
you can go back and find it
easily.
I definitely have guilty pleasure games of the era where that was not the case, especially things that have been ported over from Japan. One of the worst voice acted games I have ever played, and it's still so much fun, is Zoids Battle Legends on the GameCube. I loved the show Zoids, and this was a ported Japanese game, and they were like, quickly, we need to throw in voices that sound like the ones on the show, but not all these characters were ever on the show, because not every season came over, so we don't exactly know what all the Americanized voices sound like. But here, the lines are really short, and we just need someone to say them real quick. Go for it. And also do some, like, Wilhelm screams, and we'll be good. And it's awful. It's terrible. But I still love the game.
Right.
So, there's all kinds of things that make a good game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you do yourself a favor, look up the opening cutscene for Resident Evil and some of the voice acting in that first game. Oh, boy, it's bad. It's so bad, but it's again, it's part of that charm. They didn't know what they had. They didn't know what they were all doing. They were just random actors that they just hired and just said, say these lines.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I could have fun talking about this all the time, but we've got to go. This has been another great episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Dennis, where can everyone find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, on Instagram, dennis.tzng.
And Christian, what about you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Cops15, and talking video games.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Joey Rasool, RASSOOL. We'll see you next time on the Collider Games Podcast.